Another week, another batch of questions. Is Atlanta cursed, or have we simply overvalued their weapons? Is Nico Collins the answer to all of our fantasy needs? What do we do with Rashee Rice? Well, we're here to help tonight on the Rod Pod. Talk some Dynasty football. I am your host, J.J. Wenner, and this is the Rider Dynasty Podcast. With me are my co-hosts, Jameson Hutchinson and Joseph Harlow. Gentlemen, I am finally doing well in my leagues, except, of course, for my home leagues. 2 home leagues, 3 wins. We're not talking about it. How are you two doing at home? Jameson?
I'm hanging in there. I've got my home leagues are fine. My main event high stakes league, I'm 3-1 in. If you ask me about some industry leagues, unacceptable. A lot of injuries, but other than that, I'm hanging in there for 3-1. Rashee Rice hurts a lot, but that was a guy I drafted a lot, and it sucks because you draft him late, he ends up being a top 5 wide receiver. That is a huge win. That's how you build your super teams, and they just won't eliminate him being out. That we were going to drag this along for a couple weeks, so we'll see how it goes. But other than that, hanging in there, doing well.
Joe, how are you doing at home?
It's going. Teams are underperforming a little bit, even some decent scores, but just not enough. So one of those years so far, but a couple of my big swings have not turned out well, looking at Dalton Kincaid. But
yeah,
it's overall early. Surviving.
There is still time. It's not too late. Make a big move and win your redraft leagues. All right, but before we get to our show tonight, let's get a word from our sponsors and start your season off right with IDP Plus. Visit idpplus.com. For a limited time, get 20% off any subscription with the promo code PROPS. Get access to our tools, data, and IDP articles, and don't miss our subscriber Discord, where your subscription will get you access to our entire suite of tools. So go to IDP Plus and start your march towards fantasy football glory today. All right, Jameson. I think you should kick us off. You texted us. You said you were fired up about a certain team, Georgia. Take it away.
No. Let's do it. So I was going to start off easy with Jaden Daniels, but we'll get to the bad stuff first. And I just want to complain a little bit. And I'm tired of us ranking Atlanta Falcons pass catchers, running backs, all of them with such high regard, and they just fail every single week. And we're going to see them tonight, which means I'm probably going to jinx it, and they are going to all go off simultaneously. But I just want to start through, and I want to go through each one of them. So we're going to start with Bijan Robinson, who so far is RB20 on the year. We were drafting him right behind Christian McCaffrey, and he was fighting Breece Hall for, running back 2 territory. Supposed to be, greatest running back ever. We've done this song and dance, and just going off last year, only 4 games above 20 points a game. When you are drafting these guys in, basically the first round, they're supposed to have high-end upside, and Bijan has had not that at all. He's only had 2 top 5 finishes and only 8 finishes inside the top 12. And he hasn't hit top 12 once so far this year through 4 games. And we just saw that Tyler Algier is starting to eat into the workload as of last week. So it's frustrating. And then, just some more stats on Bijan. The highest he has scored he's scored 16 points twice this year. That's the highest he's had. And then he scored 11 points last week. So, I mean, for the RB2/3, I don't think that's really acceptable. And then, as far as his upside goes, which when you're drafting these guys this high, Bijan has only had 2 games with 25 plus points. If you compare him to Breece Hall had 5 last year, and that was with Zach Wilson and just the disaster that the Jets were. And Christian McCaffrey's had 8. So for a guy that we are taking as RB2, we hype him up every week like this is going to be his week. Where's the upside in Bijan Robinson? I mean, I don't get it. And, I guess he sets up nicely again for another matchup. We do it each week. Like, we're just going to move it along. There's no Arthur Smith. We can't blame him. We got a new offensive coordinator. We upgraded quarterback. So, I mean, I can move on to the next one if any of you guys have comments on Bijan, or I can just move down because I even got more stuff for the rest of them. So
just for the listeners, the viewers at home, Jameson did say that he could go the whole 45 tonight by himself. I don't know if you notice, he's hydrating as he goes. Underneath that hat, he has a sweatband on. So, Joe, I say we let Jameson cook.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jay.
Go
ahead, Jay-Bo, buddy.
So,
you know what?
Good.
Can we do a solo screen? Oh no, that's me. That's me. Sorry. Go ahead, buddy. Just you.
All right. So there we go. We're gonna start. All right, there we go. We're gonna start with the next one. Drake London is another guy. He gets the upgrade with Kirk Cousins. We don't have to worry about Marcus Mariota and the guy from Cincinnati, Desmond Ridder, the other one that was supposed to be all great and mighty. So he is ranked starting last year, ranked 37th overall. He missed one game, but I don't think that really matters much. He's only had 2 games over 20 points and only 3 games over 15 points. And this past year, he is a guy who was drafted up there with, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, the Jalen Waddle, this tier. He gets the quarterback upgrade that everybody loves. So far in 2024, it's a little bit better, 23rd overall. But, I mean, he's still only had 2 games with over 15 points. But that also includes a game last week where he had 12 targets. So Ray McLeod on the same team has 2 less targets than Drake London so far this year. I think that's pretty unacceptable. And for his draft position, I just don't think this is a high-end player. And we do this every week. You got to play him. He's got an awesome matchup. Kirk Cousins. I don't understand. I don't think he belonged in the end of the second round like people drafted him this year. We hyped him up, and then I think we're going to go a little light here, but we'll finish this off with Kyle Pitts, who if you're not over the Kyle Pitts experience right now, you need to get checked. So Kyle Pitts, right now, the bar for tight ends through 4 weeks is in absolute hell. I mean, does anybody disagree on that?
Nope.
No, I mean, you cough and you end up with 2 points. So he was supposed to lap the field. This guy was drafted 4th overall, and he's been a top 5 fantasy tight end drafted the last, 3-4 years. And so, last week, 3 targets for 0 catches. If he had caught one of those balls, he probably would have been tight end 5. That is where we are in the world right now. That's how bad it is. I mean, Travis Kelce, gone. Dalton Kincaid, gone. Trey McBride, concussion. I mean, what in the world? And it's just frustrating. But both Ray McLeod and Darnell Mooney have more targets, and both have 15 catches on the year compared to Kyle Pitts' 8. So Kyle Pitts is supposed to be, the second pass catcher in this universe, and he is number 4 behind Ray McLeod, who I don't know if you guys could even tell me where he started last year. And then, Darnell Mooney coming from hell if I know. I'm rambling at this point, but this is the number 4 overall pick. This is supposed to be the greatest. He's supposed to revolutionize the tight end position, and it just only 5 top 12 finishes last year, and only 2 of those came was within only 5 top 12 finishes last year, and only 2 of them came within the top 5. So he was number 4 ranked tight end on week 1 this year, and that's because he caught a touchdown. He had 11 points. I mean, that's not really saying much, and he follows that up with a dud last week. So it takes very little effort to be a decent tight end in fantasy, and he's not doing it. And just all these guys were drafted in the top 10 in regular, real life drafts, and none of them have performed. And we just do it every week. Oh, you got to fire up Drake London. You got to Bijan. This is the week. And when do we throw in the towel and accept that this is not going to happen? I mean, you can't blame Arthur Smith anymore. The offensive line that was supposed to be good is not good. Defense is playing better. I mean, defense scored more points than the offense last week. It's the reason why they won. I don't get it, but we're going to fire all these guys up and just great plays every single week. So I'm done with it. I didn't draft him this past year. I don't know why we keep beating the drum every week. Fantasy experts rank Bijan Robinson RB2 on the week, RB3, finishes RB20 every single week. I'm done with it. So,
well, Joe, what do you think about Bijan?
Sorry, I clicked the wrong button. It's just frustrating. And like Jameson said, it's like all three of these guys were top 8 picks. Like, it's silly that they took these players this high and aren't using them that much. I get wanting to save Bijan's legs a little bit, but I do still think he's a good weekly play, but also the running back position isn't in the greatest spot, but I'm not going to play him over, like, he's not a RB1 at this point, or at least not a high-end RB1. Maybe a back end just if he falls into the end zone, but it's super frustrating. No, I was all in on the Bijan hype in the first couple weeks, and yeah, it just none of them are going to return on that investment. Like Jameson said, Drake London was drafted way too high. Guy who had never finished over wide receiver 30 in his 2 years. And he's still he has the 14th most targets in the league, same number as CeeDee Lamb, but he's the one I probably feel best about. But still, and then Kyle Pitts, there's been an excuse the past few years, and there still probably is. The injury's still probably lingering with him, but like tight end 7 was AJ Barner this week, the 3rd tight end on the Seahawks. Blake Whiteheart was tight end 8, 5th tight end for the Browns. Austin Hooper, Josh Oliver, Drew Ogletree, other top 15 tight ends. Like even guys like Dalton Kincaid and Sam Laporta, who like 7.5 points, half PPR, but still that's usable. That's a baseline. That's something that if you get 7.5 out of a tight end, you're not dead. If you get 0, if 0 is your floor, then
you might as well have started an injured player.
Yeah, like
I mean, it has the same result on your team.
I think my kid could show up on the field and get me 2 points as a tight end. He is 6.
Wow, come
He's
on
about
now.
4. That is where the bar is right now as far as tight ends go. I mean, that is how
your
bad
son does not have the athletic traits
as Kyle Pitts. I know. I know.
So here's my question.
I'll tell you, I could show up and get 0.
I could show up and get show up and get like Rashee Rice, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
That's
but
fair.
I mean, is there a point where we have to stop talking about athletic upside and talk about football skill? I know we talked about I hate referencing like the pod I do on Wednesday nights, but we talked a lot about Kyle Pitts last night. And just looking at like they line him up as wide receiver. And maybe he's not a wide receiver. He's a very athletic tight end, but he's not an athletic wide receiver. He's just a big wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what they're doing with him, but I think we keep coming up with all these reasons why they're not succeeding.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, they're just not successful. I still feel a little bit like I have like 1 or 2 shares of Bijan. I still start him every week. I see the explosiveness I want from him. I just don't see consistency in any of these players.
It's one of those, I think Bijan's a top 5, 7, whatever number. He's a top level running back in the league. Tyler Algier is good enough to stay on the field enough, but
so who would you rather, Kenneth Walker or Bijan Robinson?
For fantasy, I'm still going to lean Bijan, but it's significantly closer than it was. It's a coin flip, and this time 3 weeks ago, it wasn't. Not at all.
Achane or Bijan, Jameson?
If they were playing with Tua, it would be Achane because he's got the ceiling that Bijan has not shown. Like Kenneth Walker went up against one of the strongest run defenses in the league this past Monday against the Lions and tore him up. And we know he's got the upside. Bijan, I would say Drake London, like these 2 guys, you can maybe make a case for a high floor or a decent floor. Like I'm not saying you can't start him. That's not where I'm getting at. Just where we draft him every single year, we hype him up. If you look on any fantasy, ranking site, I'm sure Bijan is ranked top 5. He's ranked top 5 every single week. He'll finish RB20, but I get that he's a great player. Like, that's not what we're playing here, though. That's, as far as fantasy, it's just not there. And it just, I don't know. But, like, I would take anybody with more upside than Bijan. I just don't think Bijan is a borderline, first-round pick. That's where I'm getting at. But he's going to be that way for the next 3 years. So,
agreed. I guess my question is, of those three main guys, which do you feel best about compared to their other positions? Like
what do you mean? Like out of Drake, Bijan, and
out of yeah. Do you feel better as London as a wide receiver, Bijan as a running back? I assume it's not going to be Pitts for any of us, but between those two, just so I know league size and starting positions will change that a bit, but just I think one is going to finish. Who's going to finish as a better RB7 versus wide receiver 10 or vice versa?
I think Bijan will end up finishing higher as a running back than Drake will as a wide receiver.
Right. That I would agree too, just because Drake London does not really have the ceiling games. Like CeeDee Lamb will throw up a 35-point game, and that will skew some of the stuff. But that's when you draft these guys this high, that should be in their range of outcomes. I mean, Bijan, I think his highest game was, I believe, 27 points. Don't mark me on that. But I didn't see much more of that. But I mean, Christian McCaffrey, when he goes off, he wins you a week. These guys are not winning you a week. So it just, I don't really know what's going on here. So, but that's, I guess that's my end rant for the Drake London stuff.
Well, I feel a little bad for you, buddy. So why don't we talk to Joe about something that's a little more positive?
Yeah. Last thing, I think I'm actually going to take Drake London over Bijan in that specific question. Just the target volume, and I don't see Ray McLeod continuing getting this many targets.
Well, at least for one more week, because I had to start him because of some injuries to Malik Nabers. Also,
I just sorted PFF stats by targets. Guess who has the 5th most targets in the NFL amongst receivers? Wandale Robinson.
Wandale, yeah, well.
Yeah. 400 a game.
He got 30 last week.
Yeah. That's 30 yards with those 30 targets, but
yeah, I don't have a data science background, but I would be interested to see who has the fewest yards with over 15 targets or over 10 targets in a game. Like it was ridiculous, but I mean, whatever. I play PPR, so hats off. And
so the exact opposite,
PPR studs,
and the exact opposite of Wandale Robinson. We're going to go all in, all out. What show is this? Nico Collins. And my question here is, how high is he ranked for Dynasty? I did some digging into Fantasy Pros, Keep Trade Cut, and the Dynasty Nerds, where they have him ranked. Some other receivers. There's the Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, whatever order you want to put him in. Sure. And then for me, I think I'm taking Nico Collins as my wide receiver 4 in Dynasty right now. He's attached to a top 5 quarterback for the next minimum of 2 years, like worst case scenario. He's looking at his reception perception profile. He's absolutely dominant. Like he's been the best wide receiver in football this year. Maybe Justin Jefferson, but he's been better than Lamb. He's been better than Chase. And this is not just for fantasy, which he is the wide receiver 1 right now, but also on the field. He has absolutely made any conversation of Tank Dell or Stephon Diggs overtaking him look ridiculous, which it always was, but that's neither here nor there. He's freaking phenomenal. He runs big boy routes. He makes catches over everyone. Like his average depth of target is insane. He is, I just lost it. Where'd it go? 12. His average depth of target is 12. It's like he's getting deeper targets, still enough of the little cheap routes to make him relevant even on his lowest weeks. But points per game, he's wide receiver 2 this year. That's behind only AJ Brown's 1 game. But like wide receiver 14, 4, wide receiver 36 and then wide receiver 1 in half PPR so far. And if wide receiver 36 is going to be the floor, which I really think it is, I mean, I think he has the upside. I think he's wide receiver 4 for me in Dynasty. Tell me I'm crazy.
Well, you're crazy, but not because of Nico.
Yeah.
As a whole.
And I will say, I think, sorry, before letting you guys respond, I get Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison, Amon-Ra. There's guys who are in the range who I get. Like, again, the 3 places I looked at, Nico, just averaging their rank, he is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's 7 right now behind Neighbors, Marvin, and Amon-Ra. So, like, I think you can realistically make a tier there. AJ Brown, if you're healthy. But I'm going to put him at 4 because I need to see Malik Neighbors I want to see what he is like with a real quarterback who's not just going to throw him stupid routes every game and get him killed. And then Marvin, we need to see more from, just lengthwise. And Amon-Ra, like, I've become a hater after being super high on him as a prospect. Just at least on the field, I don't think he's a top 10 NFL receiver. He's really good at what he does, but it's limited. Fantasy-wise, I think it's going to be a lot more hit and miss with Jameson Williams breaking out. And yeah, I got Nico at 4.
You know, when you posted this in the doc, I was like, man, Nico Collins that high. That's a little crazy. But then I took a look. So I'm over at Fantasy Points on their rankings. And right now he's at 14, but they haven't updated it probably in a minute. But I'm looking at the guys above him, right above him, Tyreek Hill, Drake London. I would take Nico over both of those in Dynasty right now. I mean, Tyreek is old. He's tied to a shaky QB. I think I would take Collins over Olave and Waddle. Neighbors is close, but I would take him over A.J. Brown and Puka Nacua. Unfortunately, I would take him over Garrett Wilson and Marvin Harrison, and that moves him all the way up to the top 5.
For me, I like Nico Collins a lot. So it ends up being borderline top 5. I think you get to pick and choose, but I like AJ Brown a lot. I think AJ Brown just be a smidge above him, but Malik Neighbors has been really nice. I would definitely have Nico above Marvin Harrison at the moment. But he ends up being, I would have it, like you said, rather have him over Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Puka Nacua. I mean, you can make the case for Amon-Ra St. Brown with Jameson Williams kind of going off. Stephon Diggs will be a short-term thing. That's not somebody, long-term. So, I mean, this started last year. It started, the connection with C.J. Stroud. Even the year before, they had, like, Davis Mills and that disaster. I mean, the numbers were there, just the quarterback play wasn't. So, it just I don't think this is a crazy talk at all. I think Nico Collins is the man as far as, like, top 5 wide receiver in the league. I mean, you can definitely make the case for it, and especially in dynasty leagues. I do not think this is a crazy call at all, and I think a lot of people will get on the train here soon.
Yeah, and also he's still only 25. Like, he's not going to turn 26 till next year. He's young, and I think his game's really going to just keep aging. He's not Mike Evans, the player, but I think similar level, he could be that sort of player for another 8 years, another how many ever 1,000-yard seasons. He was more raw coming out, so it took a little bit. And then, like you said, Davis Mills.
So, but here's my question, and this is as I'm trying to think a lot about fantasy and what I did wrong in the offseason. Is Collins, though, do you believe that Nico Collins is coaching QB proof?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I think if you put him
hands. Go ahead.
I was going to say, if you put him in like the Malik Neighbors situation with, Daniel Jones throwing it to him, I think it'd be similar. I think he's an alpha. So
he's great after the catch. He has so far Malik Neighbors has 4.5 yards after the catch right now. And what was his calling card? The big play after the catch ability. Nico Collins is a yard better right now. He's 5.5 after the catch. I think it's something that's going to stick. He's a great player after the catch. It doesn't look as fluid or crazy as a Garrett Wilson or Malik Neighbors because he's bigger, but he's still He's great at finding holes in the defense. He's going to catch everything. And then he doesn't need to be quarterback proof because he has CJ Stroud, who's pretty freaking awesome. So
I will say this about the Texans. When Joe Mixon gets back, I think that actually opens some more stuff up for Nico Collins too. Just the run game hasn't been there with Cam Akers. The offense has been a little shaky as far as what we expected to start the year, and they'll get Tank Dell back too. So even though there'll be more competition, it'll open more stuff up because, who are you going to focus on? Are you going to stop the run with Joe Mixon when he's running wild, or Tank Dell over the top, or Stephon Diggs underneath, or, Nico Collins doing all the other stuff? So I think it'll get even better for him. He's already been off to a hot start, and I think it'll get even better for him.
If Drake London was on the Texans instead of Nico Collins, what percent of Nico Collins would he fill? Is he 80%? 20%? I know what you think, Jameson.
I would say like 70. I like Drake London. Like, I like the prospect of him. It just he doesn't come anywhere close to the ceiling that I think Nico Collins has shown so far.
Yeah, I agree. I'd say 75-ish, that range. Like, again, Drake London, Bijan, they're both great players. I just think there's something weird going on. There's something in the water. But Nico, I think, legit think he's the top 4 to probably top 5 receiver in the league.
Just on pure talent alone, regardless of
pure talent alone. Yep.
This really started 2 years ago, and if anybody listens to Matt Harmon and Reception, he's been all over this for the last 2 years. And I mean, it kind of started last year, and I think people are finally coming around to it, maybe a little too late. I mean, I spent the entire offseason picking him up everywhere that I could. I thought it was at a discount. I thought in this range of wide receivers this offseason, Nico was the draft button. It got to a point that I had to diversify and kind of pick some other guys, so I didn't hold the entire Nico bag. But this is a awesome wide receiver, and I'm glad that people are finally coming around to it because it's been this way for a little while now.
He's the next one who's going to have who's the next Nico Collins, and frankly, there's not going to be one. It's not as absurd as Puka Nakua's season last year, but he's one of those height, weight, speed guys who actually put it all together. And it's probably not going to happen again this way especially for someone who, unlike a Marvin Harrison Jr., who is already super refined, but guy who needs that refining, it's not going to happen again, probably not for a long time.
Fair enough. Well, another player who nothing's going to happen for a long time. So here we are, week 4, having a great season. No injuries to any star players. That's sarcasm. Then, while attempting to recover a fumbled interception, Pat Mahomes takes out the knee of his top target, Rashee Rice. Now, during the game, Andy Reid said the injury was bad. The assumption was that it was a torn ACL. Then we are told that they need to do more testing and it might not be a torn ACL. Like maybe a partially torn, but they can't really tell. Then he was put on IR and they're waiting to do more tests. So my question is, because I saw him pop up onto the trading block in all my Dynasty leagues, what are we doing with Rashee Rice?
To complicate it even more, don't forget, there's the legal stuff. Like, he's going to be suspended for a non-negligible portion of next season.
I did forget about the legal stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of it too. So we're probably missing him for, let's round and say a full season. And then say he misses the first 4 games next year, which it could be 8. Like, I would not be shocked if he had an 8-game suspension. But this is one, as a contender, if you're absolutely loaded and just frankly need space, just throw a flyer out. If you're a rebuilding team, I know I have a couple of those where I've sent some offers just to stash him just to see, but this is tough. I don't know where to value him. I know he was bordering on top 10 receiver dynasty-wise up until this week, now even with the legal stuff looming, so I don't really know.
Jameson, what are you doing?
I think I'm just going to hold him. It's the thought of Travis Kelce probably being gone after this year. Hollywood Brown, I believe, was just only on a kind of a 1-year deal, and of course he's not playing. And Xavier Worthy is his own person, so if you can just ride the wave out, I mean, even in regular redraft stuff, it's very difficult because especially with the bye weeks starting this week, if you needed to pick somebody up, you couldn't put him on IR because until today he finally went to injured reserve, but you don't know if he's gone for the season, if he'll be back before the playoffs. Like if he comes back, say week 17, that really doesn't matter for a lot of people unless you're in the fantasy football championship. So that makes it really difficult from that end. But like Joe said, the suspension stuff, I think if you can hold on, I think he'd be worth the wait just because we've seen his ceiling with Patrick Mahomes. And it doesn't seem like the Chiefs want to get away from this type of offense. I know that sounds kind of weird, but I think everybody expected them to, have all this explosion, but they keep drafting the same type of guys. It's, Patrick Mahomes has one of the lowest ADOTs in the league right now, just yards per throw.
Criminal what they've done to the man.
It's just the dink and dunk offense, and it seems like this is what they want to do. And if Isaiah Pacheco was healthy, I think they'd lean on him. The problem is the defense is so good, and they've won so many championships that there's not really a sense of urgency because they have been there and done that, and they feel like they've figured out the code and can just keep playing this way. So I think he is a hold. I would say probably even a buy low. He's a young dude, so if he can just ride the wave, I think he's a buy low or I would say a hold. Like I've got plenty of him, and I'm just holding him right now.
Okay, so is there anybody on the Chiefs that you'd be willing to pivot to, Jameson?
As far as just for like this year in general?
I mean, Pat Mahomes has to throw the ball to somebody.
Yeah. It's I feel
They're
like
going to
Travis
have
Kelce,
some type of offense.
Yeah. And honestly, Patrick Mahomes as a fantasy quarterback, we can have that discussion down the road, but it has not been good at all either. But it seems like I've complained about Kyle Pitts. It seems like Travis Kelce is going to go into the Rashee Rice role, and it feels like he's going to get there on that, which is kind of a shame because I've spent all offseason kind of fading him, and I thought that the process was right until all these injuries happened. But I would say
right.
I would say Travis Kelce, but at the same time, you're not buying him in Dynasty unless you're trying to win now and think that you could get a positional advantage off of him. Because I think he'll be done after this year. He's 34. He's on tour with Taylor Swift. It just and I'm not really buying Xavier Worthy as far as like a solid wide receiver 1 each week, maybe even wide receiver 2.
But if Kelce was capable of doing what Rice was doing, wouldn't Kelce be doing what Rice was doing?
I think, to interject there, I think a lot of it is trying to save him for the playoffs. Since, again, he's 34 or 35. I think they want, and we saw it last season, he absolutely turned it on in the playoffs and looked like vintage Kelce. So I think that was the plan, but
he spent a lot of time
Noah Gray might be the best option right now. Like
who? Noah Gray?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jared Wiley.
Juju Smith-Schuster will get some run. I don't think that Kelce has the ceiling like he did, say, a couple years ago when he went on that tear. And the defense has gotten so good that they don't really, I hate this, it sounds stupid, they don't really have to go out and play offense. The way people think Patrick Mahomes is from a couple years ago when they had Tyreek Hill and they were just slinging it all over the yard. And then we talk about the cover 2 shell and, everybody stopped Mahomes. So he just dinks and dunks and, they lean on the run and they have a really good defense under Steve Spagnuolo to where that they can just kind of fiddle around and kind of play that game. So with how bad tight end has gotten, like I said, I would not be buying. I'd try to sell and get out from Travis Kelce unless you are an absolute contender. But I don't think Travis Kelce ends up as like a high end, fantasy player. He might end up top 5 because tight end is the bars in hell, like I said earlier. But just I don't. They win like 2017, and that's maybe it. Just I don't really like it right now for Kansas City, but they're the Chiefs, so they're still going to win. So
I just pray that they just throw like a 4th rounder to Cleveland for Amari Cooper. Just
that'd be awesome.
Someone to run some big boy routes. This is the issue with drafting Xavier Worthy in the first place. They don't need the gadget guy. They have 17 of them. Like, they need someone who can run a big boy route, who can go over the middle of the field, make a contested catch. They don't have anything like that right now.
No, the closest thing they have is Justin Watson, who's a big-bodied speedster from an Ivy League, but he can't catch.
Yeah,
his hands always let him down.
Juju's body has failed him. Like,
Sky Moore,
can't catch. Good one.
I thought
it's frustrating.
Wait! They have Mecole Hardman.
Is he on the roster?
He is. Sorry.
I thought after last year that they would like do the upgrades, but when they drafted Xavier Worthy, it just seemed like, I'm not saying he's total gadget guy. I think he offers a lot more than Kadarius Toney, but that is a part of it. I would have loved to seen Mike Williams this offseason as a Chief, just like a bigger wide receiver that brings a different element, because they just have gone over these speedster guys because they're just going to get them in space and short yardage. You know, they're going to dink and dunk and do that thing. But, you know, I believe it's left tackle they're having trouble with right now. It's not the smoothest sailing right now for the Chiefs either. But
it's funny how their offensive woes also coincided with the arrival of Mr. Matt Nagy.
Oh, I'm shocked. Related to Nathaniel Hackett as far as
you keep your mouth shut. We do not speak about that name on air. You might as well say Voldemort.
I thought this was a Jets podcast, or is that just the All Out Blitz?
This is a Jets podcast.
Last point I'll make here is go get Isaiah Pacheco. I've never loved the talent. Don't think he's that great, but when he comes back, he's going to be he might be RB1. Like, there's no one else on this team. And for all of his faults, he can catch passes better than any of these other guys on the roster right now. Hyperbole, but
not too far off from the truth, though. All right, gentlemen. Well, it is football season, and that means a trip to see your favorite team on the road, right? Well, with Expedia, you get the best prices when traveling, and we are thrilled to announce our partnership with them. Need a flight to Denver? Rent a car in Miami or a hotel in San Francisco? Or maybe Jameson wants to take a trip to Atlanta, hang out with his favorite fantasy players. Who knows? Go to idpplus.com/Expedia and build the best package to travel to the big game. All right, Jameson. Now, I want to make you a little happier. We're not going to talk about Atlanta anymore, although I did just mention it. I apologize. Why don't you speak a little bit about Jaden Daniels for me?
There's some positive in this world, and I think Jaden Daniels, quarterback number 1 overall in fantasy right now. And we spent a lot of time making fun of Cliff Kingsbury, and I think for what he's gotten, I think he deserves a little more respect than we have given him. Me especially. They're still running the horizontal raid, but through 4 games, 897 passing yards, 208 yards on the ground, 7 touchdowns, 3-1 record. This is behind an offensive line that was ranked one of the worst going into the season.
Mm-hmm.
Terry McLaurin we like as a talent, but Luke McCaffrey, Zach Ertz, who's about as old as my dad, these are the weapons for Jaden Daniels. I think we got to give props to what they're doing in Washington. The schedule of the last 4 games, Tampa Bay defense is fine. They had a lot of injuries. Giants is not great in the secondary. Cincinnati is an abomination. Arizona is not much better. But I don't think, and I'm not trying to compare them, I don't think Caleb Williams at this stage could have done what Jaden Daniels had been doing. And I'm very impressed with him. He scored 23 out of 30 drives. They've scored on 23 of them. The highest rate in the last 45 years, according to Eric Moody from ESPN. And I'm not sure how long it lasts, but just as far as a dynasty quarterback outside of 4 weeks, where do we rank him? Is he a top 10 fantasy asset? Are we believing what we're seeing? Is it going to fall off? Just kind of curious where you guys land on him. I can give you the top 10 from DLF if you guys want to hear those, just to compare real quick. So Josh Allen would be number 1. Patrick Mahomes is 2. Jalen Hurts is 3. Lamar Jackson, C.J. Stroud, Joe Burrow, Anthony Richardson, Justin Herbert, Kyler Murray, and then they have Jaden Daniels at 10. So some guys like Jordan Love is not in that top 10. Brock Purdy's been very good this year. I don't know if people have realized that yet, but he's been pretty good. And just, Caleb Williams is in there as well if you think that things will get better in Chicago on offense. So just kind of curious where you guys would put him so far through 4 weeks.
All right. Well, let's just go straight up then. I will say the quarterback. You say if you'll take Jaden or X. Josh Allen.
Josh.
Yep.
Okay. Pat Mahomes.
Jaden.
That'll depend on the league setting right now. I'm still going to go Mahomes, though.
Patrick Mahomes has not been a very good fantasy football quarterback for the last year and a half.
I understand, but one of the hardest things about Mahomes, and I don't want to go into a big Mahomes conversation, but Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL as far as being in complete control of an offense and being in complete control of himself. Like, I think he can make all the throws. He can do everything I want a quarterback to do. I just don't like the offense that's around him right now.
Redraft wise, it's clearly Jaden. Dynasty wise, I'm still going to take Patrick.
Stroud.
If he keeps it up, it's I feel like I'm playing it safe with CJ Stroud, but okay. I mean I think it's a lot closer for me than maybe others.
Hurts.
I
would lean Hurts.
AJ Brown.
Yeah. And Devontae Smith and the tush push. I know Hurts has looked bad, and no offense, he's never been the best actual real life quarterback. But when he's got all the weapons around him, plus the tush push, I mean that really adds up a lot more than people think.
There's also having about 100 pounds on Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson.
Lamar's been very good this year. I feel like I've been burned a lot by Lamar, but he's done really well, and I don't think you can rank Jaden Daniels ahead of him right now.
So really, we're at number 6, and we've taken everybody. So over Jaden. But now I think we're at the range. Like Kyler Murray. I think I would take Jaden Daniels over Kyler Murray, at least based upon what I have seen this year.
I would take Jaden as well. Kyler Murray has had one, I believe, top 12 game, and the rest of them he has been outside of them. So it's been tough sledding for him.
That's a tough one. I'm going to lean Kyler a little bit. How old is Kyler? Kyler's only 3 years older.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to lean him, but it's close. I was also I know a lot of people had Kyler as a top 8 guy going into the season. I wasn't quite that high on him.
Joe Burrow. Would you take Joe Burrow over Jaden Daniels?
I'm going to bow out of this one before I get canceled.
I would. Oh man, I love Joe Burrow. I think he's the man. But I think I would lead Jaden Daniels for the running upside.
Anthony Richardson. I'm taking
Jaden
Daniels over Anthony.
Yeah.
Yeah. The health. You have to.
I tried to spin positive on Anthony Richardson last week. He got hurt, and we'll have a talk off air about Anthony Richardson. I don't know if we need to do the funeral segment here, but it is getting very dire in Indy.
All right, so I think then he's top 10 because we would take Jaden over Justin Herbert, older quarterbacks like Dak.
I'm taking Dak over
Lawrence. You're taking Dak over Jaden?
Yeah.
What about Jordan Love? I think that one's very interesting.
I'm taking Jordan Love pretty easily over Jaden.
I think I am too.
I would as well.
I mean, I like Jaden Daniels a lot, and I know that was maybe a little bit long to go through each player, but sometimes when you're talking about a dynasty quarterback who's doing so well like Jaden Daniels is doing, you have to really sit there, and unless you do your own rankings, sometimes you get caught up in the hyperbole, like, oh, he's the best quarterback in the league right now. But there's 9 quarterbacks we would easily take over him and a couple more who are tied. I think the biggest danger with Jaden Daniels is his build and his playing style. And
I think the big thing, he has not shown much, like, compared to what we thought of him as a prospect.
Okay.
Like, he's still a one read and run quarterback. It's when he's looking really good right now, but he started 60 games in college. He was more ready than Caleb Williams was. And the offense, Cliff Kingsbury is better in the first 8 games than Shane Waldron has ever been at any point. I think a lot of the Caleb Williams team is so incredible. Yeah, it looks dumb right now, but also was a lot of overhype. And I fell into that as well. Not trying to seem higher than anyone. It was, we all fell into it. The O-line, the left tackle, whose name Brandon Coleman, has been really good. He's been the Braxton Jones of this draft for team comparison. He's been pretty darn good. I just with Jaden, he's still, the ADOT is what it is. There's a couple deep shots against pressure. He's had a couple really big throws he did in college. Most of the time he's running away from it. I don't see it as sustainable. He's played 3 atrocious defenses so far. The Cardinals are a bottom 3 defense. The Bengals are on a pace to be a historically bad defense. I think he has shown, and this has been a thing I've heard on NFL shows, fantasy shows, he's not going to suck. I think he's always was a high floor player. Always almost say low ceiling, high floor. Like, just always screw that up. And I just did there. But I think he's going to not suck. He's going to be a better fantasy quarterback than NFL quarterback, I believe. But the hype is a little off the rails right now. I think teams are, going to start putting it together a little more. I want to see him against some, I would say, even below average defenses first.
Okay. I think that's fair.
But he's been really fun. The Commanders, this is the best quarterback Terry McLaurin has ever had. They deserve, and even if I don't think he'll ever be a top 10 quarterback, but he'll always be a top 10 entertaining quarterback, which this fan base deserves that. I think he could turn into a quarterback you could win a Super Bowl with, a Jalen Hurts level, not a 1-to-1. I think he's a better passer than Hurts. He's not as good of a runner, despite there's things, but he can be that level of player. He can put up that Jalen Hurts season. But yeah.
All right. Jameson, do you have anything else?
I was just going to say I agree, and I've just been really impressed with Jaden Daniels. I thought that he was set up to fail, and I think a lot of people did as well. And, it's been 4 games. They get more film on him, and he's going to have to play some big boy. I think he's got the Ravens here in a couple weeks, and that'll be a very nice test to see how it sets up. But at the same time, they'll get better players. They'll probably draft another wide receiver to pair him with, and offensive line will get even better than what it's outperformed its expectations. So I know the hype's off the rails right now, but I do think that they deserve a lot of credit because in the range of outcomes, I did not see 3-1. I did not see him hitting Terry McLaurin for the moonshot of a lifetime against Cincinnati on Monday Night Football. I mean, that's a huge stage to go up against Joe Burrow and take him down. So I've been really impressed with them, and I think they deserve a lot of kudos for that.
Keep Trade Cut has him as the 3rd overall player.
It's a bit rich.
A bit. And again, just one thing to be cautious of, there's the October wall. At the end of October, as every year in the NFL and even in Texas Tech, Cliff Kingsbury was great through October. Then once November hit, it completely fell apart. His offense is the same. He hasn't changed anything. He's getting a lot of hype praise right now, and he's done a little better than we expected. But after October is when, if Jaden Daniels still looks like this, then we might be into, I don't want to say for real territory because that degrades what he's doing now, but.
So would you say that Cliff Kingsbury is like the pumpkin spice of football, where we can all deal with it and kind of like it up until Halloween, but once Halloween hits, we're all like,
over.
I'm ready to move on?
I mean, I'll drink pumpkin spice all year round, so.
You know what? I'm not going to lie. You look like somebody who would drink pumpkin spice.
It's because of the long hair, isn't it? And the ginger beard.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It's the
I'm a white girl. Yeah. I'm a basic bitch. I'll say it.
Oh, speaking of basic bitches, Joe, what's going on in Green Bay?
Yeah, so initially we are going to bring in the Seahawks as well, but we had some fun conversations. So we're just going to talk about the Packers wide receivers.
Okay.
Quickly, let's just rank them dynasty-wise. Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, and Bo Melton for shits and giggles. Just how do you rank them for dynasty? We'll go normal half PPR league, nothing fancy.
Well, I don't know anything about half PPR. I only do PPR. So
okay, we can do full PPR. That's fine.
I think this is pretty easy and obvious. So Jameson, you're going to have to be my sounding board. Reed, Wicks, Dobbs, Melton, Watson.
And this is for dynasty or for redraft?
Dynasty.
Okay.
I think it'd be obviously Jaden Reed, who I think we should have a separate conversation here in a second about. But him, I think if you were going for ceiling, it would be Wicks 2. If you're going for more floor, it'd be Dobbs. I will go Wicks 2 and then Dobbs 3, and then I'll do Christian Watson and then Bo Melton. But Jaden Reed, I think he's wide receiver number 5 right now, and I don't think people realize that. And when him and Jordan Love are on the same field together, I mean, they are balling out, and I think it's almost like a buy low. I shouldn't say buy low. If people are not aware or don't think this is sustainable, I mean, I think that this Packers offense is going to be good, and I think Jaden Reed is in for a monster year, and I'm not sure that people realize that just yet.
He seems like a Debo who's a better receiver.
Yep. He's in that mold. I'm trying to remember who my comp for him coming out was. I can dig into that in a minute, but I agree. It's Reed 1. I will say if you're in a best ball, I can live with taking Wicks over Reed. But yeah, Reed, Wicks, and then agree on the rest. Bo Melton versus Christian Watson really depends on. I'll take Bo Melton as a hater, but
I'm just Watson's done with Watson. I'm done.
Yeah, Watson's probably the right answer.
I like Christian Watson, and I think it's kind of a shame that he got hurt. I totally understand if you were just done with the program. I think the offense runs a little bit better when Wicks is on the field compared to Watson.
Agreed. So let's take a little left turn here and just go to other wide receivers. Jackson Smith-Njigba versus Jaden Reed.
I like JSN.
I think I would lean Jaden Reed, but I think JSN's great. So, but I think I'm very comfortable with Jaden Reed.
It's throwing some other names out. Devonta Smith.
Or Jaden Reed?
Yeah.
Devonta Smith.
Jaden Reed.
I'm also going to say Jaden Reed. It's close.
If
Garrett
AJ
Wilson.
Brown's going to be there. Ooh. I'm gonna go Jaden Reed.
Oh, get the out of here!
Listen.
Get the
listen.
You're gonna make me curse, and I don't curse. Okay, I'm mute.
Listen, if we are talking dynasty wise, Aaron Rodgers runs the slowest offense in the NFL. I know he's gone through the gauntlet as far as cornerbacks go, but even if he does, say Aaron Rodgers is done for the year, what is Garrett Wilson's upside right now in the Jets offense? That looks terrible compared to Jordan Love, where he's pushed the ball downfield, where Jaden Reed looks like Deebo Samuel.
The difference is the Packers are manufacturing touches for Reed. Garrett Wilson has like the 7th most targets in the league. They're all super freaking hard. It's the Jalen Waddle thing from last year where he was running all the big boy routes so Tyreek Hill could do his Mickey Mouse crazy shit, which was awesome. And Mickey Mouse is too tough for him. But Garrett Wilson I was always been a hater. Did not have him as a first round prospect, and still off the tape. Don't think he was, but anywho, I struggled with him the first couple of years, but he's a legit top 10 receiver in the league. The Jets are making it so hard on him. Well, and Aaron Rodgers, let's say they get quarterback 1 this class. I mean, there's a very low chance quarterback 1 in this upcoming class is going to be better than Jordan Love. So and they're not going to get quarterback 1.
If we're talking about Garrett Wilson, because this is a Jets podcast.
I thought it was a Penn State podcast.
And a Jets podcast.
Where's Chris Godwin?
They kept showing that clip of right after the 2-minute warning where Aaron Rodgers was so mad at Garrett Wilson for not catching a ball. Doug was talking about it last night, and he threw him into two safeties. There were two safeties standing there, and everybody's like, oh, well, Garrett Wilson should. It was a terrible pass.
Bullshit.
Like, can we stop sucking up to Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't great last week. He wasn't great. It was a rainy game. It was a terrible game. And the offensive coordinator sucks. I see every other star wide receiver. Freaking Malik Neighbors is getting touches generated for him. CeeDee Lamb gets touches generated. And Garrett Wilson gets lined up right in front of the best corner on the other team. And he's faced a gauntlet of good corners this year.
Yeah.
And they're like, go win. Do it on your own. And we're just going to blame you when it doesn't happen.
Yep.
That's why I asked the question about Nico Collins. That's why I asked, because when we talk about players who are great, I still think so much of it comes down to luck and where you play and who your coordinator is. Because if Garrett Wilson was on Houston, we wouldn't be having this conversation about Nico Collins. If they switched roles, we're not having this conversation because it doesn't matter how good Garrett Wilson is. It doesn't matter.
And when I brought up, obviously, when we talked about Jaden Reed versus Garrett Wilson, I'd much rather have Garrett Wilson, the wide receiver, but just the environment,
absolutely,
the quarterback, just all that stuff. That's why I'd pick Jaden Reed. I mean, Nathaniel Hackett couldn't get himself out of a paper bag right now. And that's me being very
No, he could
polite.
Because he'd piss himself and the bag would fall apart. That's how Hackett would get out of a paper bag.
Well, I think you were right on that, but I'll leave my other comments.
I'm sorry. I have a lot of hate for Nathaniel Hackett.
I get it. Garrett Wilson deserves so much better. But yeah, again, I'm taking Jaden Reed for fantasy football. I think Jaden Reed's the pick over him right now. And again, I agree with you, jerk. If it was like Trevor Lawrence was the quarterback who's going through the throes of it right now, but is still young and obvious talent, it'd be very different. I would take Garrett Wilson with a hypothetical Trevor Lawrence for sure. But a 40-year-old Rodgers, they're going to be good enough to keep him out of the quarterback market.
I know.
It's what it comes down to. Or if Jaden Reed had a Goff or one of those other guys who's just a mid-tier, good but not great, it'd be same. But to round it together, let's rank Jaden Reed, Rashee Rice, Drake London, dynasty-wise.
Say it again. Jaden Reed, Rashee Rice, and
Drake London, the trio of the pod.
I would rank them in that order.
I would as well. And at just the Rice stuff obviously comes down to suspension, but he's got a much higher ceiling than Drake London. That's what I'm shooting for. So paired with a much better quarterback. So I'm very high on Jaden Reed. I don't know if other people are. Like, people see wide receiver 5 and it's only been 4 weeks, so maybe they think that comes down. I think that's sustainable the rest of the year. So that's just kind of where I've gone with the Packers wide receivers.
Yep. Also, Montavian Wicks. Think he's a borderline top 30.
Yeah, I think we're going to find out very soon. Yeah, very soon. All right, gentlemen, let's take a look at Thursday Night Football. Last week, Joe and Jameson tied with 2 correct bets. And I had one again. I told Jameson before the show, I'm like a baseball player, going 1 for 5 every time. But
like tonight, the Orioles.
I'm going to break that slump. Are the Phillies in the playoffs?
They are.
Yeah, because they don't suck like the Orioles do. Sorry, I'm bitter.
It's okay. So tonight we have Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers visiting Kirk Cousins and Jameson Hutchinson's favorite team, the Atlanta Falcons. Jameson, what are the lines for tonight?
Somehow, after my rant, DraftKings Sportsbook favored the Atlanta Falcons by 2.5 points, which doesn't make any sense.
They're favored?
But, oh, yeah, baby. Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
So,
well, they are home, so if you figure the implied home, they're actually supposed to lose by 0.5 point or something like that.
But, Yeah, over under 43.5. These Thursday night barn burners. So we got a couple props. We will go through these, but we'll start with just the Falcons favored by 2.5 points against the Bucks. Where do you guys stand with that? We'll go JJ and then go Joe.
I'm taking Tampa to cover.
Okay.
Yeah, Tampa to win. If it was Tampa minus 3.5, I'd take Tampa.
Yep. So I'm on the same boat, and then over under 43.5. Thursday night football, so all the scoring and all the fun goes down by about 35%.
I'm going the under because I've taken the over every other week and I've sucked. So under is the obvious right answer.
I'm going to take the over.
You sweet son of a bitch.
Thanks. Tampa's been in games that hit the over 3 or 4 times. Oh, just kidding. Only twice. So that Lions game was weird. Their defense isn't as great as it had been in the past. Atlanta's offense is gross, but their defense can do things. I don't know. Over. Why the hell not?
J-Mo?
I will go under here. If Bucks weren't going up against the secondary of the Falcons, that's been very good. I think that they're in for kind of a tough night. It just kind of keeps it a little bit under. But I don't think Atlanta is going to be scoring a whole lot personally, but that's just me. I mean, the defense what helped them win the game last week against the Saints. I believe they
26
had
points without an offensive touchdown.
Yeah, so it's I don't know. I think my Atlanta hatred right now is very valid. But we'll go just some player props. We'll start off with the greatest running back prospect of all time, Bijan Robinson, over under 60.5 yards. So JJ,
Over. I like their offensive line versus Tampa, and I think he'll go with the over because he is clearly the best running back prospect in the history of the NFL.
Joe, on you.
He was an elite prospect. I'm inspired by you, Jameson. I'm going under.
So I'm going to go under as well because it would make no sense for me to say over. But at the same time,
It would have been
Tyler
really
Algier
funny, though.
deserves a little bit of respect. No, it's not happening. But Tyler Algier would be a starting caliber running back on most NFL teams. Like Dallas would have been great with him. Not that would have happened, but there's a lot of teams that I think Tyler Algier would excel in. So going to the Tampa side, Chris Godwin, who has been cooking so far this year, 68.5 receiving yards over under there. So JJ, your turn.
I'm going over for Godwin.
Joe?
It is a Penn
Same.
State podcast.
It is a Penn State podcast. Yeah.
J-Mo?
I'm gonna go under. So I just think that this Atlanta secondary, AJ Terrell, Jesse Bates, I mean, they've quietly gotten it done. Atlanta on the defensive line has somehow kind of gotten there. Been kind of fluky, but I just think it's going to be low scoring. If anything, I hope that Mike Evans has another big game, but I'm going to go under here for Chris Godwin. And then last one, talking about greatest prospects of all time, Kyle Pitts. Nobody better in the history of the universe. Over under 30.5 receiving yards. Just a reminder, he had 0 catches last week for 0 yards. So, JJ?
Well, that would have placed him about 5th on the Denver team, or 3rd in receiving yards last week. Because, right, didn't a bunch of them end up with negatives?
Yep.
Well, Jameson, I hate to phrase this way, but I feel like the universe has a way of effing with you. And I think the football gods they've heard you. They've heard your lamentations, and they are going to let Pitts have one good game this season. And it's going to be tonight. And he's going to go for 80 yards and 1 touchdown.
So I can see it, but this only happened because of me putting this out in the universe. But Joe, your thoughts on
80 and 1 TD.
I also believe the football gods. I believe God in general. I'm a religious man. I think God has a fun sense of humor. I think he'll screw with us. I'm going over. I don't believe it, but you know what? It's
out of 4 games, he has hit the under on 3 of them. But
Yep.
I'm going to go under as well. But I will tell anybody who's listening right now, if you want to make some money, I'm not in the parlay business, but if you want to parlay Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Bijan Robinson all to have touchdowns, tonight would be the night to do it. If you want to hit the over on all of their receiving yards, rushing yards, do that as well. I'm sure you'll get like 20,000 to 1. You can thank me later, buy me a beer, Venmo, whatever, because I've made this happen in the universe. But that's what's going to happen. But it's Thursday Night Football, so this will be a barn burner.
Jameson, my friend, listen. It's Rosh Hashanah. It is the Jewish New Year. It is time to start anew. So you gotta be.
Jameson. You have to put money, your hard-earned money, on one of those 3 to score a touchdown tonight. Who's it going to be?
Well, Tyler Algier will be scoring the touchdowns for Bijan, so I'm not going to pick him. Kyle Pitts will not catch the ball.
Jonnu Smith will still catch his touchdowns.
Yeah,
all the way in Miami.
Yeah, so I will go Drake London here, which it'll be off a tip pass from Ray McLeod, who is intended to. It ends up in the air. Drake London's behind him. Catches the touchdown, gets his 12 fantasy football points, helps you win your week. No, there we go. I've taken like the Joe role and being the negative Nancy this week, and I don't know. We need some positivity, so we just need to move on.
You do.
So that's the Atlanta game.
Well, there's no.
It's a frustrating team, man. Of all the teams to really bring this out, it's this freaking team. Like. Zach
didn't
Robinson.
We all pick them to win the division?
I don't want to talk. I don't remember. Probably.
I think I would have picked the Bucks, but I might not have.
You know what? We can check. Let's see. Who did we pick? Maybe we didn't pick. I thought we did.
I thought we picked 2. I forget. All right. Well, it is time for tags. Oh, go ahead, Jameson.
I was going to say, if I picked Atlanta, I'd probably be under the influence. So it had been the Bucks. I picked the Bucks now. Go Baker Mayfield, but we'll finish this off with tags.
Well, we share any final thoughts that we might have and let everybody know where they can find us. Jameson.
I'm over on the Twitter machine at Jameson Rules. I finally got that figured out at once.
Good job, buddy.
Good job.
So appreciate it. Every Thursday here on the Rod Pod, every Sunday morning with Joel Worth, one of the greatest of all time at IDP Plus doing DFS. It's been very good so far this year. So if you're not listening, also if you're in the money-making business, like we said, the 3 touchdown parlay, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, I'm sure that will hit tonight. But other than that, just over on the Twitter machine, following postseason baseball. Not watching the Orioles, unfortunately, but it is what it is.
Wow. Taking shots at everyone. Joe, you're up.
You know who didn't take shots? The freaking Orioles. 1 run in 2 games. You can find me on Twitter, Jolo63, being sad about the Orioles, hoping for next year, even without Corbin Burns. Start sit article coming out each week. And yeah, I will miss you guys next week. I will not be present. So.
Jameson, we have to plan up something good for just us.
Yeah, next week's the one I'm gone.
We'll make it happen. Give me one.
I will be in Omaha, back where my kiddo was born, taking him back for his birthday, his last as an only child. So
very nice.
Yes, it'll be fun.
Very nice.
Yeah, appreciate you guys and all of you.
All right. Well, I'm at JJ Wenner on X. Thank you to everybody who joined us tonight on the stream. Thank you to Joe and Jameson for all their work. Make sure you're reading Joe's Start Sit article. It is fantastic. I used it today to make some IDP starts, so it better come true. I'm counting on you, Joe.
I haven't stuck too bad this year.
No, you haven't, actually. It's been very good, and I put it into play today.
I think I'm averaging like 8 and 4.
Well, that's better than me. Make sure you're checking out Jameson on the DFS show with Joel Worth. That is a fantastic way to start my Sunday before I pivot to the Start Sit show with Ricky and Sicoli and Sean. And then make sure you come back next week on Wednesday for the all-out blitz. Doug and I are going to dive into the film and analytics for week 5. Then on Thursday, Jameson and I are going to be here doing something next week. I don't know what. Maybe we'll just do a roast. We're going to roast Joe in absentia.
I'm sure I deserve it for something. All pumpkin spice and such.
That might be your new nickname. But from all of us to all of you, be safe, be well, and as always, boat drinks, my friends, boat drinks.
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.